being made. Why must I chase the cat?
Good evening and welcome to Posse Presents. It's another rainy day. I don't know when it's ever going to feel like spring. Very cold today. Not sure it's going to be the best weather tomorrow either, and tomorrow is Mother's Day. So I would like to wish all of you moms of both human and fur children a very happy Mother's Day. Some of us chose not to have human kids, and you know, our pets are basically our children, and there's no harm in that. I know a lot of people think that we're crazy, but you know what? It's a good kind of crazy, and I wouldn't have changed a thing. Again, it's a choice for some of us, not a life circumstance. And you know, my animals mean the world to me, and I am their mama. So happy Mother's Day to me too, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, got some stuff to talk about tonight. If there's anybody who knows this show and who knows me at all, you know that my little friend Juno and her mom and the rest of their pack mean the world to me. And unfortunately, there was a tragedy. I mean, that's what Deb called it, and it really, there's hardly any other way to describe it. At an event last Sunday, the newest member of Juno's pack, Jake, and let's get the picture up of Juno and Jake, Zach. Jake was attacked by a much, much larger dog. And Jake is the little scruffy guy, if you don't know, if you've been hiding under a rock for the last year or so, not even a year, maybe 7 months. He's just the cutest little thing, and that little harness that he's wearing clearly, believe it or not, saved his life with the little spikes on it. They were at an event amongst friends. There was a very much larger dog who displayed signs earlier in the day of maybe not really belonging there. The owner was not paying attention. Jake never saw it coming. Him and Deb were kind of facing the other way. Poor Donna saw it happen and not even a chance. She saw it coming, didn't even have a chance to alert Deb because it happened so fast. But Deb and Donna and Melanie and, you know, Tanya and Serena, all right there, and all witnessed this very big dog come up behind Jake and grab him. Like I said, the spikes on the collar caused the dog to drop him at first, but then he picked him back up in the lower body and just shook him like a rag doll. And it's unthinkable to watch your animal be attacked like that. I can't imagine the horror. I know how it would just be all I could see in my head for something like that happening. And they fortunately, with Serena there, and Serena has, you know, pretty much proven herself to be an amazing young lady on a number of occasions. Her and a bystander were able to get Jake, literally pry him from the jaws of this dog. And there was a veterinary practice that was literally right down the street that had set up at the event, and they scooped Jake up and ran him right to the office so that he could get stabilized. And then they transported Jake, Deb, and Donna, you know, whoever else went along, transported Jake to home territory where his own vet, Dr. Lindsay, bless her heart, was able to attend to him. Now, Jake had so many puncture wounds. Let's get the pictures of just Jake up now, Zach. This was on the way to the second veterinary hospital. He had bites and bruises and puncture wounds. The very fortunate, you can scroll through the pictures if you'd like. There he is. He had 5 drains inserted because that's what happens with puncture wounds. Poor little guy, shaved from like shoulder to tail. Keep going, Zach. This was after the surgery to insert the drains. Poor little guy. I can't even imagine the pain that he was in. That was, you know, keeping him warm after surgery. He looks so cute, but so sad at the same time, because we know what's under those blankets. There he is a couple of days later, unfortunately with the cone of shame. Took him a few days to want to eat or drink. I just, you know, the whole thing is just awful. And I can't imagine. We all don't want something to happen to our pets, and this was just absolutely the worst. He's got a lot of crate time, and you know, there he is. He looks pretty out of it. He's been on some pain meds and et cetera and so on, and stuff to keep him comfortable, and you know, knocked out some of the time, because that's, you know, having been the victim of a severe bite myself, I know that pain, and it's got to be horrible. But anyway, he was very fortunate in that he didn't have any broken bones. He didn't have any internal bleeding or injuries. They were all puncture wounds, which, you know, not to minimize that, but literally could have been so much worse. And if the dog was able to stay at his neck, that would have been probably the end of him pretty quickly. I'll take the camera back at any time. It's been a rough week on Deb. It's been a rough week on anybody who witnessed that. You know, again, it was an event that was meant to be a good time for a good cause, and to have something like that happen not only mars the event, but you know, it didn't have to happen. You know, people create controversy at times like this, and it's very unnecessary. You know, Juno's place on Facebook is where a lot of people follow what happened, and Deb was, you know, posted as soon as she could about what happened, in fairness to, you know, the fan base, and to get the power of prayer and good thoughts and all that going. But there's so many people who feel compelled to make controversy and make negative comments and say awful things. I think they forget that there's real people behind all this, and the hurt and the pain of having something like this happen. It's very personal. Even though you're posting it publicly, I don't understand how some of these people who made derogatory comments about anything, or the know-it-all comments, or just some of the things that were said just aren't right. People claiming that the other dog's owner, you know, did this or that. How would you even know? You're not involved. You know, unless you're talking directly to Deb or anybody in her inner circle, or that she did talk to. I don't know how, you know, the Facebook warriors need to come out of the woodwork and make a thing out of something that, you know, if you've got something to say, send your well wishes. Don't try to stir the pot. You really need to think twice. And one of the sticking points was what kind of dog did the attack. And Deb purposely didn't put that out there, although there were some people clearly who knew, because they had to keep putting it out there. You know, like little festering fleas, they had to put it out there. And, you know, the whole reason to not put it out there is because there's enough hate in this world, and Deb knows that. And there's no reason to stir that pot. There really isn't. What kind of dog it was is pretty much unimportant. And, you know, if anybody wants to assume, I will tell you with absolute certainty, it was not a pit bull. So there's your first surprise. That's the first thing I think anybody thinks is it must have been a pit bull. No, it wasn't. It was a big dog. It was a big dog that shouldn't have been there because it wasn't comfortable, because it wasn't used to situations like that, because it was recently adopted and probably not the best scenario when you don't know the dog's history. How about if we just leave it at that? You know, it happened. You know, there's a lot of people that were posting about the vet bills, and let me tell you, the vet bills were quite significant. The owners did not make any arrangements to repay that money, and that is kind of a sticking point. Did they put some in? Yes. Did they cover the whole thing? No. Something like this happens, it's very costly, and the burden for it to be on the person whose dog got attacked is just not right. There's no way that can possibly be fair. You know, Jake didn't even see it coming. It wasn't like he antagonized the other dog. It wasn't like he did anything. He was literally had his back to the other dog, and he was there 1 minute, and like a crocodile coming to take something off the shore, the dog just snatched him and turned away, and that was the end of that. So, you know, for anybody who wanted to speak like they knew what was going on, you were wrong. There's a lot to be said about taking your dog to events. And, you know, I wrote an article this week, and I wish I didn't have to write it. Of course, it was prompted by exactly this, attack on a dog that, you know, yeah, he means something to me. And even if he didn't, the scope of what happened warrants taking a look at going to events. It's starting to be event season, and people like to take their dogs out. They like to include them in their day. They think, oh, you know, this is a doggy event, it's going to be fun, and, you know, I want to go, and I don't want to leave Rover at home, and, you know, oh, I just adopted this dog, I want to go show him off. Okay, but not every dog has the temperament to do well in a crowded, noisy environment, full of strange people, strange sounds, strange smells. You know, there's dogs of all sizes, there's dogs of every energy level. You know, there's just so much unfamiliar to an animal, and that doesn't necessarily put them in a place of being comfortable. You know, if your dog is dog selective, doesn't get along with, you know, every dog he meets, don't leave him home, don't take him. If your dog has a high prey drive, you know, likes to chase the cat, goes crazy for squirrels, a big dog that'll go after a little dog, don't bring him. If your dog is fearful around strangers or hesitant or shy or, you know, doesn't like to be around a lot of new people, don't bring them. If your dog isn't comfortable around children, you know, if little kids running around and, you know, carrying on and screaming or playing or whatever, makes your dog a little nuts, gets a little snappy, goes to hide, not the place for him. If your dog is reactive in any way, your dog is far better to be at home. You know, events where everyone is welcome, they're just not the place for you to try to acclimate your dog to different things. They're not the place for you to try to desensitize your dog and, you know, help them get over any of their fears. Because if a dog is not comfortable, it's a recipe for disaster. You know, newly adopted dogs, again, you've got very little history on them. You don't know what their triggers are. It doesn't matter what the pound or the rescue or the person who had the dog before tells you. It's probably not the whole story. It's probably not all the truth. People tend to cover stuff up if a dog has issues because they just hope it gets a home and there's, they can sweep it under the carpet. You don't know what the past is. You don't know what the triggers are. You got to be pretty good at a dog's body language. Keep it close to you. Watch it vigilantly. Don't turn your back on your dog. That's the dog that until you honestly, and I'm not telling you to be nervous about it. I'm telling you to be watchful because the dog is going to know if you're upset or nervous or there's something wrong with you. There's two ends to the leash and there's a lot that transmits from one end to the other. So you've got to watch. You've got to see the signs of a dog that's starting to get uncomfortable. It doesn't matter. Like I said, body language, not everybody's an expert, but if your dog is lunging at another dog or your dog is cowering, those are two pretty clear signs that it's time to go. If your dog seems uncomfortable or uneasy, if your dog has been fine before, it could just be an off day. It's not fair. If it seems like it's not having a good time, it's time to go. You cannot force an animal to be somewhere where it's uncomfortable for any reason at all and expect a good outcome. You just can't. If it's going to feel threatened, if it's going to be scared, it may become aggressive. And then what? No good is going to come out of it. There's just plain and simple, there's absolutely no good that's going to come out of a dog that is uncomfortable to the point where it's going to react. And you can't blame the animal. If a person doesn't know enough to protect, you're protecting your dog as well as you're protecting another dog. Let's put it that way. The repercussions of your dog being the aggressor are many. And when you're at an event, unfortunately, not only do you have to watch your dog, you've got to watch all the dogs that are around you. And that's one of the things I know that's going to be hard for Deb with Juno, and hopefully Jake will be able to attend events again. She's going to be like crazy watching everybody around her dogs. And I can't blame her. I would be too. I've been on the fence about bringing my dogs out, but this is like the kind of thing that I'm afraid of. So yeah, you've got to watch the dogs around you too. And I honestly think it should be perfectly okay that if people see a dog and it looks like it's going to be a problem, or they've seen a problem, or the dog is clearly in distress and the owners are just ignoring it and making the dog carry on, I think it should be perfectly okay to go to whoever's in charge of the event and ask for the dog to be removed. And I don't think that there should be any butthurt involved. I think if you're asked to leave, you should just leave. And, no retaliation, no nothing. Just go. Because there's a reason that someone's asking you, whether you see it or not. Nobody's picking on you. I just think that it should absolutely be a thing to have somebody leave if their dog is carrying on, or if it's not behaving, or if it looks uncomfortable, or it's making other people uncomfortable. And I don't mean making other people uncomfortable because, it's this kind of dog or that kind of dog, or I don't like big dogs. I mean the behavior, because it all boils down to the behavior. It's clearly a problem if the dog is not comfortable. That's just, it should be standard practice. And I know that there are some events that are pretty strict about stuff like that, and I think that's a good thing. And asking someone to leave doesn't mean go put your dog in the car. It means you leave, because a lot of these events are during the summer, and a dog in a hot car, don't get me started on that. You can't do that either. If you're setting up at an event this year and you're bringing an animal, you really need to think this through as well, because if you're committing to be there for, 4, 5, 6, 8 hours, and you think your animal is going to be stuck there with you, you could be in for a big problem to do it like that, you know, where you're going to bring it to be stuck there and now it's not comfortable, and, you know, how do you leave? You're going to have to leave. It's, you know, if you're going to bring a dog to an event, it has every right to enjoy it as much as you do, and it really doesn't matter how long you're there, what you thought you wanted to see while you were there, how far you traveled to get there, how long you plan to stay. If you bring your dog and it's not comfortable, you really, really need to go. End of story. You know, the things that could happen, like with Jake, the vet bills are unbelievable when there's surgery and bites and, you know, God forbid, internal injuries. So you really have to think about, you know, you're going to be on the hook if your animal, not only for your vet bills, but the other person's vet bills, if your dog creates the problem. And, you know, I don't think anybody is really got like all that kind of money to throw away. Never mind the fact that why should a dog or 2 dogs or however many dogs get involved, why should any of them have to be hurt? You know, sometimes a dog thinks your dog might be uncomfortable, think it's smart, go after another dog. The other dog's going to kick your dog's butt, and now there's 2 dogs that are hurt. In this case, there was only one with Jake because obviously the size difference was so great. But, you know, a true dog fight, there's going to be 2 dogs hurt, and there's going to be twice the vet bills to be responsible for. So, you know, if you have an inkling that you want to try to force your dog to stay, think about that. And, you know, in this day and age, you really have to start thinking about, everybody's all sue happy. So, you know, to hear someone, you know, try and tell you, oh, I'll see you in court, it's very likely that it's going to escalate and it's going to get ugly, all because you wouldn't take your dog home. Or, as they say, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. It's all the same thing. And you know, that whole I'll see you in court is lame, but it's what happens, unfortunately. You know, the venue can get dragged in, you know, and most of them are trying to help animals. So, you know, if they get stuck with legal stuff, what good does that do? And how do they continue to help animals? So, you know, it's a ripple effect. It really does. It makes a difference. It's unfortunate that this stuff even has to be addressed, but people don't think about it, you know? Then there's also setting the dog up to fail. If you have a dog with a bite history or an attack history, in the eyes of the law, sometimes that's a death sentence. So you're really putting more than just whether your dog is having a good time or not, or whether you're having a good time or not, to a whole new set of circumstances where, you know, you were the dope who didn't leave with your dog when you saw it wasn't comfortable. Well, now your dog's going to pay the ultimate price because you didn't pay attention to your dog, and now it has, you know, a bite history or an attack history. And hey, if it's not the first time, you know, the laws see that pretty specifically. So again, there's a lot involved. And, you know, I'm not trying to be like, you know, Debbie Downer with the whole event season, but it's all setting your dog up to fail. And it's putting your dog and every other dog or person at that event at risk, because you know what's going to happen. 2 dogs get into it, people jump in, they're going to get hurt. Now it goes, that takes it beyond 2 dogs getting hurt. Now you've got doctor bills for people, and, you know, again, the potential for lawsuits, and, you know, really ugly things can happen. So I can't imagine why, if your animal is uncomfortable, not only is it not fair to the animal, there's a whole lot of risks you're taking that are bigger than you. And so it just needs to stop. Don't set an animal up to fail. Don't put your animal or anybody else's animal at risk. You know, if you're in an event and your dog isn't feeling it, just go. You know, if you need to take your animal out and test the waters, go to a pet store, go to someplace, go to a park, but don't go to these big events where you plan to camp out for the day and, you know, think that you're going to be there for hours and hours and hours. It's not worth the risk. Just ask Jake, he'll tell you. So certainly I'm wishing Jake the best and a full recovery. And, you know, for Deb and Donna and Melanie and Tanya and Serena, bless her heart, you know, I hope that the images in your mind fade sooner than later, because I know they're burned in your mind's eye, and you're probably playing it over and over again. And Deb especially, having to live with looking at Jake every day and just, you know, knowing that that's what happened. It's pretty awful. But Jake is getting a little better every day. It's going to be slow going. He had a rough start, so, you know, poor dog can't catch a break. However, he is where he is meant to be with Deb and Juno, and it's going to be day by day for him. And I'm just glad that he's a little fighter, and he's going to be good. You know, he had the drains removed. He's just, like I said, every day just a tiny bit better, and that's all that we can hope for. Hopefully this isn't going to put a real damper on, you know, event season for Juno. She loves to go to them, and, you know, they're a big presence, and it's really going to stink if that's a hindrance. So anyway, I'm going to move on to an adoptable dog that caught my heart and made me smile just by looking at him. There's Wally. Look at that face. He is such a little smush. He's got the sweetest face. I just want to kiss him. He's just a little guy. He was found as a stray and pulled by Pit Stop from the Bridgeport Animal Control. He's had some TLC and he's had some medical care. He'll need some more in the way of dental work going forward. You can see right there, Zach, back up. You can see right there, he has some deformities with his legs, and they're suspecting that that is largely due to overbreeding or inbreeding. And, you know, they didn't say in their post whether that's correctable or not. You know, sometimes it's just not fair to put the dog through it. I'm not sure. But if anybody is interested in Wally, you can email, wait a minute, you can't take me off yet, email Anya, ANYA, .pitstop@gmail.com. I'm going to say peace, love, and dogs. Until next time, good night.